Welcome back, and thank you for returning to That Poetry Place. Today's presentation focuses on reflective journaling and the art of healing. A brief talk on the importance of writing things down, especially in the wake of the pandemic. What a ride it has been, and continues to be. I find the words of poet Angelo Ghider most appropriate right now. This is an excerpt from his poem, Praise. Today I will praise. I will praise the sun for showering its light on this darkened vessel. I will praise its shine. I will lift my hands in adoration of how something so bright could be so heavy. Praise the body. Praise the memories. Praise the eyes for seeing and still believing. We have great work to do today. I thank you all for opening your minds and this door with me. Let's start by taking a look at this picture. What do you think is happening here? What might the backstory of this moment be? Perhaps a pre-shift huddle or the end of a shift? What feelings does this photograph inspire? Gratitude? Solidarity? Perhaps even regret and grief. We all know that appearances may be deceiving. Despite our best intentions, not every moment can be hopeful, right? Of course, we can't really know for sure just by looking. And even if we had all the objective information, we would still lack the intimate knowledge of what's going on in the minds of those pictured and of the person taking the photograph. But we can still appreciate the beauty of this image, right? We can imagine every possibility. When we move past the cold facts of everything we think we know, what's left? Well, art. And I believe what we do as caregivers is as much an art as it is a science. Enter the field of healthcare humanities. Simply stated, this is an interdisciplinary field of study that partners the arts with healthcare education and practice. But who has time for art? Why should we, as healthcare professionals who are so consumed with the demands of patient care, care? The quick answer is that creative expression provides insight into the human condition and nurtures our skills of observation, empathy, and self-reflection, all of which are essential for the practice of humane medical care. You might wonder if preeminent researchers and scientists would put any credence into this idea. Art as a science. Really? When the Voyager spacecraft was first launched in the 70s, its mission was to explore the depths of outer space, starting with Jupiter and Saturn. We wanted to learn about what was out there, but we also wanted other life forms, if they're out there, to learn about us. When Lewis Thomas, an exceedingly logical man, award-winning physician and author, dean of Yale Medical School and New York University School of Medicine, and president of the Memorial Sloan Kettering Institute, was asked what message he thought mankind should take to other civilizations, what do you think he said? What would you say? What might you take along to teach other civilizations about the human race? This was Dr. Thomas's response. I would include the complete works of Johann Sebastian Bach, but that would be bragging. Where did the idea of integrating art into healthcare come from? One point of origin was in medical schools in the late 90s in response to the rigorous nature of traditional training programs, which some found indifferent to the human aspect of patient care. A formal narrative medicine model soon emerged, first and most notably directed by physician Rita Sharon at Columbia University. Rooted in philosophy, literature, poetry, art, and social sciences, this program empowers new physicians to provide meaningful, compassionate, and human-centered care. I coordinated my own evidence-based project at my hospital in 2018, focusing on narrative practice. It was based on previous research findings that empathy and effective communication skills, both of which are essential to personalized care, may be honed through the art of storytelling. Such efforts, commonly referred to as narrative medicine or narrative practice, gently remind healthcare professionals of a fundamental tenet of caregiving, our shared humanity with our patients, and may help to alleviate burnout and compassion fatigue. A recent systematic review also found that participants in narrative practice programs noted high levels of satisfaction with the process and improvement in areas such as relationship building, empathy, perspective taking, reflection, resilience, burnout mitigation, narrative competence, and ethical inquiry. The goal is to honor the personal accounts and lived experiences of patients and their caregivers through the 5 formally recognized actions of Rita Sharon's narrative medicine program at Columbia, which include sense-making, asserting control, identity transformation, decision-making, and community building. And basically, I just asked people to write. The focus was on personal feelings and self-expression, not clinical care details. Common themes focused on the search for meaning and purpose in one's work, and the realities of burnout and compassion fatigue. A simple post-writing survey revealed 100% of the respondents felt that hearing or reading the stories of others helped their teams grow closer and also fostered a sense of admiration among colleagues. I heard a lot of, "I never knew that about him before," after their stories were shared with others. A majority, 96%, said that writing helped them personally feel better, and 76% reported finding a sense of resolution with difficult experiences. Here's an example of an excerpt of one of the stories from the project. Near the final stretch of pregnancy, every mother nests. She folds and refolds baby clothes. She writes her birth plan out with careful attention to every detail. Everyone knows her birth plan. It's a joyous existence. Then, in an instant, this mother is short of breath. She doesn't improve with home asthma medications. She staggers into the ER with the aid of a good Samaritan who finds her gasping for air in the parking lot. Seeing our staff ready to aid, she collapses. Status asthmaticus, this I know. Call for a vent. Bring me a crash cart. Get me the ER doc and the intensivist stat. We intubate, but she needs more. Her heart rate is dropping. It's 55. It's 47. It's 40. If she codes, we're taking the baby. An obstetrician arrives. A neonatologist is here too. We now work feverishly to stave off an emergent C-section in the ER. I hear a noise from 3 doors down. A patient is dying and my nurses need help. My most reliable nurse pleads for me to come to that code, a grave sign coming from him. But I cannot leave this mother. I trust in my early morning decision to assign this nurse to this particular pod today and ask my clerk to overhead page another physician to that room. But I'm the charge nurse. I'm supposed to help everyone. I know I cannot be in 2 places at once, but I want to be. There are now 5 physicians within 25 feet of me, 3 for mom, 1 for the baby, and 1 for that code. I can't count how many nurses because they're constantly moving. Emergency airway kits are ripped open. I see a laryngoscope blade smaller than my pinky. For a moment, I question why I do what I do. Can't quit now. I asked for this. How does sharing a story like this impact practice? Well, I've found that generally, healthcare professionals are open to the idea of sharing their stories with others. Managing such a project is achievable with much potential benefit for participants. Additionally, a recent evidence-based study found that regardless of years of experience, marital status, and education level, job stress impacts everyone, and that the two things that most effectively combat it are 1, positive job perception, and 2, social support over time, both of which appear to be positively impacted by narrative practice. And you know what? You don't need a formal program to get started. How do you do it? A personal journal. One study found that keeping a reflective journal encourages mindfulness, cultural humility, emotional awareness, and personal resilience among caregivers. Getting started with a journal can be challenging. Though the story excerpt I just read is compelling, being so detailed and organized isn't always easy. The desire might be there, but perhaps not the time. We're all busy working adults, right? Also, writing all of that down by hand perhaps isn't something one is used to these days. Even typing it in electronic format could prove complicated. I suggest you follow these simple guidelines instead. First of all, no Dear Diary entries or required word counts. In fact, I don't even encourage complete sentences. Think of this as a stream of consciousness tool based on the fact that our thoughts often don't come to us fluid and organized, do they? No, it's often just flashes, colors, pops, and things you hadn't thought of, perhaps for years, suddenly coming to mind. I encourage everyone to simply record 2 or 3 impressions from each day, something you believe is important, something that stayed with you, something you learned. Could be a sketch, could be something you cut out and pasted in, could be one word. If you write 2 things each day, at the end of 1 month, you'll have 60 reminders of who you are, what you've earned, what you've endured. You write to stay connected to the person you used to be, so he or she doesn't suddenly show up in your bedroom at 3 a.m. banging on your headboard, demanding to know, why have you forgotten me? Essayist Joan Didion said, "We forget all too soon the things we thought we could never forget. Forget what we whispered and what we screamed. Forget who we were. We need to remember." This is a sketch from my reflective journal. After my team lost an infant to a co-sleeping accident in the ER, I wrapped this baby crown to foot in a white sheet and carried her to the morgue. Afterward, I sketched the morgue doors. Despite my best efforts to slip away off the unit unseen, my clerk, who is not clinical, saw me. She drew me holding the baby. Now, as a caregiver, it's hard to put into words what seeing this sketch means to me. In my mind, when I think of that experience, I see the morgue doors. I feel the weight of the baby in my arms, and I hear my footsteps, but I never really thought about how I look to others. I find it unsettling and comforting all at once. If I happen to look back on this page in 10 years, I wonder what I'll think then. I wonder what any new nurses who might see it will think. I wonder what you're thinking now. I have a few other examples of pages from the reflective journals of some of my colleagues as well. This image, one of my favorites, was captured by a physician colleague who was covering a freestanding emergency room on a particularly busy evening. As you may have guessed, it was right around the time of the Game of Thrones finale, hence the title, "The Night is Dark and Full of Terrors." The image is complete with bonfires and figures running around in pitchforks outside the facility. What I love most about this image is that it was more than likely sketched during his shift in haste. And even though it lacks the color and perhaps the vibrancy of the image you just saw, me holding the baby done by my artistic clerk, it is no less poignant. Proof that you do not have to be an artist to create something meaningful. Another compelling image created by my artistic clerk. Christmas music plus coffee plus intubation equals happy holidays, ER. This page was contributed by a pharmacist who had a dear friend who was an engineer recovering from a stroke, broke down after PT one day, told her, "I am completely broken." She replied, "You are not completely broken. Completely broken people do not know they are broken." Who can appreciate a good strong cup of coffee? A colleague of mine who is a paramedic suddenly developed chest pain during one of his shifts. His EKG revealed an acute heart attack. However, the problem was actually a previously undiagnosed congenital defect, which was ultimately repaired with this device, the CryoLife Onyx Ascending Aortic Prosthesis. This page, we had a patient come in who had previously had a stroke and was unable to speak. She was motioning with her hand for pen. When we gave it to her, she kept writing this word and pointing to it over and over. Home. This is my girl, Lola, my favorite sight at the end of the day. Now, if a journaling project such as this is to truly take flight, its good work must be reproducible, right? In terms of narrative practice, current studies indicate that instructional guidance may be easily launched and replicated. In established narrative practice programs, some organizations utilize professional writers to assist with formal instruction. But current research indicates that healthcare leaders and educators may be empowered to lead the process. A recent integrative review of 17 quantitative and qualitative studies found that the benefits of reflective writing are best achieved through flexible instruction with ongoing revision, honoring the feedback of participants. The focus is on created content, not technical writing. Learning experience appear to be most enhanced when directed by an established mentor or facilitator in an environment of mutual trust. No singular method of instruction is considered compulsory, though the need for personal reflection is imperative, as is emphasizing patients' and caregivers' voices. Therefore, narrative practice may be viewed as a fluid and generative process with many opportunities to tailor instruction based on patient, caregiver, and faculty expectations and needs. And it all starts with one simple question. What is your story? We all have one, and no themes are more universal than illness and recovery. I hope what we've discussed today will be a springboard for you to start your own reflective journal, that you will be inspired by your own words and the words of others, that they will be your lanterns in the days ahead. Caregivers are the gatekeepers and the guardians of truth. Now more than ever, we must celebrate and trust our voices. If anyone has questions or would like further guidance on how to begin, please reach out to me or leave a note in the comments. As always, I am grateful for your time and attention. Thank you for listening.